Alright, time for another draftphysics.com video presentation. Debate physics also, where you'll find the debate link. And I wouldn't suggest watching it because it's just a waste of time. You're better off watching this video. And I'll explain. They won't bother actually arguing the argument. So there is no real debate. And all they want to do is their Jesus math, frankly. So the only difference between, Catholics and flurf defenders, or whatever these people are, these defenders of science, is the fact that they have math, contrived gibberish math, where somehow, 9.8 meters per 1 second gets converted into 9.8 meters per any number of seconds squared for no good reason that can be explained or articulated. So all of this really has to do with just one single misdefinition of reality, one confusion. So Leibniz did this, and this is the problem. Is the fact that you can drop a weight 1 unit of distance, okay, and let's just say it's 1 second worth of dropping, so it's going to go 9.8 meters. Well, it's going to go 4.9 meters. So let's be clear on that. 4.9 meters, and you'll have, let's do velocities in another color, and you'll have 9.8 meters of velocity. So you'll travel 4.9 meters, and you'll gain a velocity of 9.8 that is now perpetual. So if I ended the force, whatever the force is, it's not a force, the bent geodesic, if I stop the bent geodesic, which again is just such nonsense anyway, and so it would just continue going 9.8 meters per second, which means it would go twice the distance, all right, in the same amount of time that it did that distance, because it went from 0 velocity to 9.8, so it didn't quite gain as much, but it'll get a free 9.8 in, whoops, so I already broke my rule. It's science. It does take a little bit of work. So that's what I'm going to get, is 9.8 for the rest of forever, if I don't put anything in its way. And the simple argument is in the second, what's going to happen? The next second. This second, if I do have gravity on. Okay, so gravity was on, I got 4.9, I got 9.8. Then I shut gravity off, I get a free 9.8, in terms of the distance. And if I left gravity on, all I'm going to get, boy, I almost want to do it in a different color, is this, the 4.9. So all I'm going to get is 4.9. Okay, same difference, same amount of distance from the force, and it's going to give me, though, another 9.8. So I'll gain another velocity. This was distance. Okay, yeah, velocity is in green. So my bad. 4.9 should have been in red. Alright, well, whatever. And so I'll gain another plus 9.8 in velocity. And so now I'll have 19.6. So that clearly illustrates 4 times the distance. Okay, and it's 2 units of time, 1 second here, and this would be 1 second here in continuous constant force gravity. So that's how it works. The first second you only get this 4.9. The second you have 9.8 in velocity now, so you go the 9.8 without any extra force, and then you get one more unit of 4.9 and 9.8. So it's 2 units of time. I don't care if it's a bent geodesic. How exactly does the bent geodesic gives you 4 times the energy? It's only giving you 2 units of pushing force. 2 exactly the same units of force. And you're saying that this force is only worth 1 E. And this force, the same one, it's exactly the same thing. This one is 3 E's. All right. And so we're right back to this simple argument. So go ahead and try to defeat it. I mean, it's a premise of your theory is that somehow twice the compression, and that's what it's going to be. All right, that's already established as a fact. You have a scale, and you have two identical objects of identical mass, and you put one of them on the scale, and the scale reads a number, okay, reads an amount, and then I put a second one on the scale, and that reads the same amount, extra, and somehow you're saying when I did this, it was 1 energy, and somehow this second compression of the scale, the same amount under Lenz's law, Hooke's law, it's worth 3 energies. Somehow this produces 3 energies, this only produced 1. Now how do you make sense out of that? And you're telling me I'm the fool because I don't fall for this? I don't think that's the way it works. I don't think this actually happens, that the same mass can be put on a scale in exactly the same manner, and somehow one motion is only worth 1 energy and the other motion is worth 3. I don't fall for that. That doesn't make any sense at all. There's no way it's true. And again, I've cited all of these references where you can find the truth. The lever, the much older measuring device in which people trusted their fortunes in terms of getting reliable answers about what equals what, tells you, okay, that 4 times the height is not, okay, in gravity, 4 times the energy, because 4 times the height is only 2 units of time. And then there's the car crashes, and then there's the, let's see, what else can we add? Oh, the ballistic pendulum that just so obviously shows it. So I've done this over and over again. They're 5-minute videos. If you're going to reasonably, sensibly, fairly debunk me and dismiss me and call me an idiot, then you should be able to handle providing a video response where you play this argument and then explain where I said something inaccurate, where I made a mistake somewhere in what you are arguing. The tune asshole says that 1/2 mv squared doesn't mean 5 times the velocity, 25 times the energy out or fuel in. He says it doesn't work that way, when obviously that's exactly how it works. You should be able to provide your counter argument. You should be able to explain where I have made a mistake in understanding kinetic energy and that somehow it doesn't say these things, when of course it does. If you're going to argue that because you have applied a word to the velocity and said somehow the velocity is a scalar, whatever the hell that could mean, that somehow the velocity doesn't have to do with a line moving, okay, that a point moving a velocity in a straight line vector. You want to explain what a scalar straight line is? How exactly the energy isn't exactly in the direction of motion? Alright, so that's the basic argument. Now, since I'm here, I might as well talk a little bit about one of the other clearly, you couldn't just make a bigger mess out of the elemental physics than to pretend, okay, that heat isn't a form of momentum. So, we could use the rolling ball as an example. We've done this over and over, so it's another argument for which you are being fooled, okay, by an optical circumstance, okay, where you're not understanding that the simple idea is that this is 1 velocity, this is 2 velocities, and what you can clearly understand is this 2 velocity will eventually, right, be going 1 velocity. We're going to lose the energy to the ground as friction, And we know that the way the ground's going to absorb it is essentially in just vibration. So it's going to be what we could call heat. It's going to be converted entirely into heat. So its momentum this way, linearly, is basically just going to be absorbed in the ground as heat. And the heat is atoms moving, it's mass moving. And just like you could imagine the heat is just being bowling pins, and this could be a bowling ball. And how you're going to take the energy away is you're just going to force the ball to hit the pins and lose its momentum. So it's the same argument as the bowling argument, where the 8-pound ball is said to be, have twice the energy, because I give the 8 mass with 16 velocity versus the 16 mass and 8 velocity bowling ball. Now we know the bowlers use the heavier ball, so we know that somehow they can't figure out that this has 2x the energy by kinetic energy theory. They can't derive any of that, because yes, logically you can understand. How is the 8-pound ball going to lose its momentum? Well, it's going to give its momentum to the pins. The pins are going to fly off, and the total mass and velocity of those pins is going to equal the ball. All you're going to transfer is the momentum. You can't transfer anything else. There's nothing else to transfer. And you're going to pretend that twice, 1/2 of the energy somehow with the 8-pound ball turned into heat. Well, you're never going to prove that. And, there's no good reason that half the energy would turn into heat. It's not that big a difference in the velocities. Why would the 8-pound ball be losing so much more energy to heat than the 16-pound ball? It doesn't make any sense. So back to this. So you can just see here this is what one velocity looks like right here. This is one velocity. And it's going to do that here. Okay, at this point, okay, it's going to have 1v. And that's going to be 1/2 the velocity. So it's going to go half its velocity 3/4 of the way down the track. This is going to be identical as an experiment to this. Identical. And you're saying that somehow here, we lost 3 units of energy. But how could this be half the velocity here then? See, it just doesn't make any sense. How could it be 3 units of velocity lost when I'm going half the velocity here? So it can't be. And the simple answer is well, this is 1 second, and this is 1 second. Same amount of time to do this as it did to do this. And in that time, it's a 9.8 meter per 1 second force. 9.8 meters of increase in your velocity, or force, period. It's 9.8 meters per second of force, and it's per 1 second. Every 1 second, there's 9.8 meters of per second of force applied. And so, yes, you got 9.8 meters of pressure, weight here. You could just call it weight. 10 pounds of weight was put on the ball, forcing it into the ground here, and it was only 10 pounds over this whole large area of force applied to the ball. So this rolling ball here had a lot less force per foot or per inch pushing it into the surface. So it lost a lot less energy per linear distance. You can't understand that, and you're going to call me a fool? So go ahead, redraw any of this and explain where I make a mistake, where I said something that isn't correct. There's going to be the same heat here. Total amount of heat, same watts of heat in this hunk of ground as there is in this hunk of ground. Same amount of time, same amount of heat, same amount of molecules moving, and it's all equal to the momentum. Momentum never gets a wrong answer. So I'm asking you to show me the experiment where momentum will steer me wrong, where I will make a catastrophic mistake if I obey conservation of momentum, and I entirely ignore kinetic energy. Show me the experiment where I get a wrong prediction or I make a mistake. If you're going to call me a fool or an idiot or some other name, then back it up. So you're telling me this audience that can type hundreds of comments and do all of this ridiculing, they can't produce a fucking counter-argument video where they actually play the other guy's argument, there's my arguments, and explain how, look at the stupid mistake he made. Look at that idiotic mistake. I'm telling you, you're making the idiotic mistake when you think, okay, that this hunk of distance here, this 9.8 right here, is somehow adding energy when it's just its acquired velocity. And the only two places any energy were added were here and here in 2 1-second units. And there's no way it has 4 times the energy because it only got pushed by 2 times the force. Yeah, that should be enough. But you're gonna tell me that how could they all be wrong? It's like asking me why is the majority of the human race lost in some delusion about some fucking goddamn afterlives and heavens and singularities and all kinds of bullshit. I mean, even the non-religious people are sitting there in their fucking goddamn closets rubbing their fucking crystals of hope. And you're going to ask me how could they all be wrong? Oh, how could all the scientists be wrong? Well, because they have the same delusion gene, okay, that creates religion. They have the same fucktard bias, okay, that makes them want to aggrandize something rather than simplify something. They don't want the simple fucking evolution answer. They want some kind of living force, religious answer. And that's the truth. And, yeah, there really hasn't been a rational scientist, frankly, since Newton, because since then you just sit there and grasp at any kind of superficial, and again, this is superficial, this is a thin ice argument. This is explaining why you can prevent yourself from falling through thin ice by going across it quickly. Because the fact is you'll be applying less force to the ice. And it's that frickin' simple. And a fast-moving object applies less force to the ground. It's just a fact. If I went fast enough, I could hit one little tiny mogul and I could just fly right across the surface. A fact. They have to put spoilers on some cars because they basically start to fly. You know, and they have to push the wheels into the ground. So these are, these arguments are just so obvious, and you're sitting here pretending I'm making some sort of catastrophic delusion mistake. No, it's you that has the delusion. You who have been fooled and duped. You who haven't researched anything or looked at anything. You just pretend there's no way they could all be wrong when society, culture, and history is full of everybody being wrong. That's enough. So any reasonable person just appreciate the fact that with all their bullshit, all these whatever it is, thousands of viewers, not one of them can make a video actually arguing my argument. They'll just keep scribbling incoherent nonsense math with formulas, bad formulas justifying bad formulas. And that's it. Circular crap. And that's all. They won't show you an experiment. They won't show you a reasoned argument. They're just going to keep doing crap math and say that's good enough. That's reality. I just did some circular crap math. Justifying nonsense with nonsense. It's like reading one book of the Bible to justify another book. David said John is always right. And John said David is always right. There. We don't have to prove God now, do we? they're both right, so they both say each other's right, so let's not even have an argument about whether or not God exists, because there's the proof. Yeah, it's that stupid. And you people insult me? Ah, come on, bullshit. Fuck all of you. Get what you deserve, which is living in a shitocracy of your own creation because of your own obnoxious arrogance.